good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's going to be a fun night tonight because the person who's putting me in the hot seat, Karen, baby, she been on fire with her Instagram reels and stories. A big personality, consistency. So one, I'm elated that you won. Because one thing I know is that you're definitely consistent in your video creation and willing to do things that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. So thank you for you know what, always showing up and being willing to try. How you doing this evening?
I am doing well. So yes, definitely. When you said back at the beginning of 6 and 12, when you said you need to try trying, and there were some other things that really gave me a push. At the end of January, February, I had noticed one of the ladies that I follow on Instagram, she had a challenge with, showing up in stories and doing video. And I participated in that challenge and was very uncomfortable for the first few days. And then I noticed that as the days progressed, it got to be a little bit easier, which there's still days, that I don't feel like showing up on stories with my face, but I'm like, you can't let that go by today, or you're going to let 2 to 3 days go by. So
isn't that the truth? And you know what, guys, today I made a very tough decision. I decided to delete some accounts. So today I deleted, get this, Twitter, because I've never liked Twitter. So after 14 years, I just went back and looked at the analytics, and it wasn't to me worth the time. So I let go of Twitter, get this, Snapchat, TikTok, and I know this one is going to come as a shocker, Clubhouse. Because my verdict was out on Clubhouse, right? I don't know if you all have listened to me. I've never been a Clubhouse enthusiast. I was willing to try it to see how it played a role in everything else, and decided that I'm going to double down on what works well and become better at what works well. And so that's just going back to the longer form videos, leveraging Facebook, leveraging Instagram, leveraging LinkedIn, leveraging the podcast. It's like, you can't do it all, right? And I feel free. And so I'm like, oh, this is a good feeling. Like, give me some of my time back. But that is when we go back and start looking at our business plan, why we need to understand who that target audience is. And I should have let Twitter go 5 years ago. But that's neither here nor there, Karen. I'm in the hot seat, honey. So come on and set my butt on fire tonight.
Okay. So, of course, when I saw this, I was like, oh, my gosh, what am I going to ask her? Because when I started thinking about my questions, I've followed you now for so long that I feel like you've shared so much. And I'm like, okay, I could ask her this. Well, she actually has already answered that. So it was kind of hard to come up with different things. It really was, because you share so much, which is amazing.
Well, thank you.
But so my first question.
Okay.
So as an agent with little to no experience with short sales, foreclosures, distressed property transactions, I'm definitely looking forward to the upcoming designation class that you're going to be doing. But other than that upcoming training, what would you suggest as a focus for gathering information and education, the best steps to prepare now for those situations that we think are going to be happening in the near future, whether that be the end of the year, next year, whatever? What would that focus be to learn?
Okay, so I'm going to make a comment, then I'm going to tell you where I think you should learn. One, I'm not sure we're postponing the ADPR. The reason is, and I just sent that email too today, a couple of reasons, and this is what I want you to think about. The first one is we don't know if we're going to get another extension of the moratorium. And even if we did not get an extension, there's numerous other programs that are already set up that are going to roll out to help people for 6 additional months. So they've been talking about it and advertising it. One of the bigger reasons for the delay is, even if we were to go back, let's go back to 2007 when we had this first foreclosure crisis. The reason we had a foreclosure crisis, but we also had a short sale crisis. And the reason was because people did not have any equity in their homes. People have equity in their homes now, which then means that their property will not be subject to a short sale. It will be us selling a property where a notice of default has been filed. So the essentially a big part of the ADPR, the Accredited Distressed Property Representatives, was based on short sales, not necessarily foreclosures. So to answer your question, are we going to see notice of defaults? Yes. I do not believe they're going to be subject to a short sale, which now means that we will have the right to bring that property to the market, but it will not be subject to lender approval. Okay. With that being said, when we start looking at sellers where notice of default has been filed, time is of the essence for a couple of reasons. One, we don't want to tack on additional unpaid principal and interest if they're trying to preserve their credit, and if they don't have a lot of equity. Okay. And so what we would be looking at then is subscribing to get great information on notice of defaults as soon as they are filed, and we want to be sensitive. So we want to be the person who, now maybe you might have been in a community where the average price point was $350,000, $400,000. You want to step it up $200,000. When people reach a certain price point, they don't want people in their community to know their business. So I would think of the market as being a step-up market, right? Where historically we could go into a higher price point, because at that higher price point, they would not want that local community realtor to know that they had filed a notice of default. So I believe that we should do a default marketing campaign, but keeping in mind that the property will not be subject to lender approval, which then means that 60, 90 days, I mean, like we've had short sales in the past that were 18 months in duration. We won't need that lender approval. We will treat it as an additional sale. But when we get the payoff letter, we have to make sure that they've included that additional unpaid principal and interest in that payoff letter. That was really, I'm gonna be honest, that was a good question. Because I still think that there's going to be a great marketing opportunity there. It just won't be subject to the short sale, which is the headache of trying to sell a default. So we won't have that headache.
So when these notice of defaults, so say you have a list of these notice of defaults, and we actually have a girl in our office that I'm friends with, and she worked for 26 years as a paralegal for a bankruptcy attorney. So she's very versed with some of this stuff, and we've kind of sat down a little bit and tried to go through some of it. So let's say you have this notice of default list. What would be your verbiage to this seller? Because obviously you don't want to, hey, I know you're in default. So how would you word that scripting as the helper, the savior, the life preserver person?
First of all, I would want to know what are the special programs. I met with a gentleman named Cal Draper. I've interviewed him on my podcast. He helped me with my storytelling. One thing that I've changed in my storytelling in the last week, 10 days, instead of using the word you, I'm using the word we. Okay. So when a person is experiencing hardship, we would want to position it as a we and not a you. We've gone through, interesting times. We understand that everyone has not paid their mortgage in a timely manner. These are the benefits. So I would not say, I know you. I would position it as a we statement to make it more inclusive and to collaborate with them, but offering them a solution in that same note card. And then I would go, we, but then I might say, if you or someone has fallen behind, here's a solution. Feel free to call me. Because now they might know the neighbor. And here was kind of funny with what happened before. When people first started going into foreclosure, they kept that information to their chest, like it was a shame, right? When we got to about 2011, 2012, I was at an event with a group of, well, let me say this, they're 80 years old now. So they were 70 at the time. Successful retirees, investment property, and everybody was talking about doing a short sale. Like it had become comfortable and they just sitting around kumbaya. And I'm like, man, that was a total shift in mindset in the past couple of years. And so I think this time I think that we'll see the same thing because people have already seen this before, right? We want to use language that they're familiar with, and we want to talk about the pain point. So preserving credit, getting as much as one can possibly get. Because that unpaid principal interest, when it starts tacking on, it starts eroding at what that equity base is. And we don't want that to occur.
Great. Okay. That's definitely some good information. So kind of alongside that, so you said you guys are putting off that ADPR. So which national certification or designation would you suggest and why, kind of the best bang for your buck educationally that has profited your business?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going to take you back to the beginning. When I came into real estate, I did not attend pre-licensed school. I read the book, I studied for the exam, I took the test, and I passed it. As soon as I got my license, not as soon, a couple of weeks, I realized I didn't know nothing. Like the book didn't teach us bupkis about selling real estate. So when I go to the Chicago Association of Realtors and they slide the bill across the table, I'm like, well, first of all, what is this for? And I've never heard of you. I've never heard of the Illinois Association of Realtors. I did read about the National Association of Realtors. What is the MLS and why do they get so much money? Why do I have to do a one-time setup fee? Right? This is because they didn't go over that in the book, right? And so I'm like, okay. Then I tell the woman behind the desk, I'm glad I only got to pay this bill one time. And she laughs at me. And she was like, oh, no, you got to pay that bill every year and on time. If you want your membership, if you want your MLS access. The very first class that I took was the ADPR, the Accredited Distressed Property Representative. Now, mind you, I opened my company July the 31st, 2003. Okay. I quit my job at Pfizer September the 6th because I was moonlighting at Pfizer. I was a loan originator, transitioned to broker, but moonlighting as a pharmaceutical sales rep. That's a whole nother story. Do too much. In December, I had my first $20,000 a month sale, did $24,000. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've never made $24,000. Oh, this is a lot of money. I attribute it all to the ABR course. So then I went on and in 2004, closed 70 deals, earned $242,000. And keep in mind that pre-license course didn't teach me nothing. And it wasn't even a pre-license course, right? It was a pre-license book because I didn't even go to class. So I would say it was definitely the ABR course because I don't even know how I made it. Because I didn't know nothing, right? Now, over the years, I've earned a boatload of designations and certifications, right? I have 63 to date. I love CRS courses. From the managing broker standpoint, the Real Estate Business Institute used to be the Council of Residential Brokers or brokerages. So I took a lot of their courses. From each course, I pulled one little thing, that I can remember from that course that changed how I do business. There are some designations and certifications that have not served me based on my book of business, and I'll give you those too. I let go of the SRES, and here's why. My preferred method of communication is not that of a senior. Therefore, I would not do a good job of servicing their real estate needs because I don't communicate in the manner that they prefer to communicate in. The next one is green because I don't live a green life. To me, green is a class that you must live it, right? Now, I will give you, was it the second home and resort property? So there was a second home and resort property designation course in Chicago. I was able to attend the course. I think I was on the board of directors at the time. It was a 2-day course. I go to day one. The instructor was from a different state. I'm going to leave her nameless. And she was a nice person, but it was not her subject. She was not the subject matter expert of that subject. From the back of the class was, let me think about the name of their name. Oh, golly. Michael, I'm thinking of Michael Good, Sheldon Good's son. He was licensed in every state because they were auctioneers. And in order to call auctions, he needed a license in that state. How about Michael taught the class for the teacher from the back of the classroom? I didn't even go back to day 2 because I knew that would never be we don't have a lot of second home and resort. Like we don't have a lot of waterfront property because it's all Lake Michigan and it's nothing on it. And you got to go to one end of the city or the other. The rest is park, right? Park district land. So I would say that was non-beneficial. So thinking about, what's in your city, where do you envision your business being in the next 10 to 15 years? I would select my other designations and certifications based on that information. Adorna Carroll does a very good job with the SRS course. I did take the CIPS. I made probably my best connections globally in the CIPS, but that would be for personal vacation travels, things of that nature, maybe a retirement job, right? But nothing that I would necessarily use right now. So ABR, without a doubt, the SRS, and then CRS REBI courses. And SRS is a REBI course, a Real Estate Business Institute course.
Gotcha. Yeah. So here in North Carolina, we do have a lot of people that have second homes because we've got mountains, we've got beaches that are 2 hours away from us, south or east. So a lot of people, if they can afford it, they do have houses at the beach. So that may be something for me to look into, at least, having that knowledge base to be able to refer people to those agents that are at the beach.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good. Now,
and their net worth would be higher too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now in Chicago, you said that you took your real estate class. Do you guys have to do a post licensing?
We do now. So let me, when I got licensed, it was a very strange little period of time. I think it was only good for 2 years. So I got licensed at a time that it was only a 45-hour pre-license course. And if you had an undergrad or a master's degree, you could just sit for the exam like an attorney. So I just sat for the exam like an attorney, and there was no post license. Today, yes, we do have post license, but we did not have post license. Was that like 2002? We did not. And I would like to believe that in 2004, how I got licensed no longer existed. And how I got licensed, I wouldn't recommend to nobody because it sets you up for failure. Like it was a nightmare waiting to happen. I just figured out how to navigate it. And I was willing to accept the fact that I didn't know anything.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of liability. Here, take this 45-minute class and go take a test.
Yeah, it was a lot of liability. Let me just knock on wood. I'm lucky. Look, I've never been in trouble. I'm lucky to not be in trouble.
Hey, there's some people that go through the whole class and the post-licensing class, and they're still a liability. But okay. So you've advised us many times that it's very important to volunteer and become involved in your local associations. I've made baby steps in that direction. I've reached out to a lot of our local association board members and have developed a relationship with them on Clubhouse. They do an association room every Friday morning. And so that has kind of been very beneficial to me. Very beneficial. I did become a member of Women's Council right before COVID. So once COVID hit, I wasn't able to go and participate in any of these events. I attended a lot of the virtual stuff that they did. And they just had their first in-person event last month, which I went to and got to meet, a few people. So what do you suggest is the best way to engage with the associations specifically? Joining committees, finding more volunteer opportunities within those committees, joining other organizations under that umbrella like YPN, or, some of the specific councils that they have.
So, so I was volunteering, and my mentor told me that I needed to volunteer more in order to volunteer at a higher level. And basically, at the end of the day, people who make decisions needed to be able to put my face with my name. And so I did what he told me to do. Now, my feelings were hurt 2004 and 2005 because I came out for the board of directors in 2004. Now, my whole story, right? So I don't know nothing, but I believe that I had the credentials that they should put me on the board of directors for the third largest real estate board at the time. And they didn't. And then I came back again in 2005 and they didn't. Now I'm hot in 2005 because like in 2005, I'm killing it, right? I have a lot of visibility. I'm doing a lot of marketing and advertising. They cannot act like they don't know who I am. That's when I took my mentor out. And there's a guy named Dennis White. They selected him over me for Region 5. Now, mind you, he oversees this multi-billion-dollar fund for the city of Chicago today. He closed his brokerage and everything. And I tell him I'm still mad from 2005 that they selected him over me. Clearly, he's managing billions of dollars. He was qualified. Well, when Frank told me that, I started to volunteer more. But to answer your question, I would want you to align yourself with a mentor who would basically tell you where they believe the association can leverage your skill set the best. So oftentimes when we go in and volunteer, I tell people you should volunteer where you can provide the most value, because then you're going to stand out more. For me, it's always been education. Two, what we don't talk about in volunteering is that in order to volunteer at a higher level, you need to have an ally. Okay. Every day, someone brilliant, gets beat out by somebody else who's brilliant. So brilliant people get beat all the time. And it's because they don't have that ally. They don't understand the long-term strategic goals. They don't understand who been talking to who and who made promises before they got up in those meetings. So with that being said, a couple of years ago, I got a couple of people mad at me. They've come out for the board of directors. And my number one question is, I said, well, who told you to run? And they look, well, what do you mean? And they run their credentials. I said, yeah, that sounds good and dandy. I said, if you don't have an ally at that table to vote for you and to sway votes, you ain't getting on that there board. And that is what they don't tell you. So you gotta network, you gotta meet people, and you need that one person who is going to point these things out to that body. And truth be told, it's not a position, when you're talking about board of directors, especially for larger organizations, it don't just happen. You're networking yourself. And the best way to do so is to volunteer. Because now you get the opportunity to break bread. You get the opportunity to dig a hole. You get an opportunity to serve others side by side. And so they'll be like, oh, I remember, that, we were at so-and-so together and so-and-so helped me out, whatever the case may be. And that's how a lot of these other awards and decisions are made. Also, what we don't often talk about when it comes to volunteering, when you start looking at your local media, the press, they are reaching directly to the association for those different media opportunities. The people who are always called on are the people serving who are in leadership roles.
Yeah, it's been very in the short amount of time that I have made those baby steps, and especially with the people that I have met and networked with through the association. You can tell they've been around for a long, long time. They know each other very, very well. And you can tell, like, you feel like, okay, I've just met these people. I'm the outsider. How do I get in? But I definitely can see. And when you said, get an ally or speak with someone as a mentor, like immediately I've got someone in mind. So that's great.
Keep showing up. And that's, I tell people just keep showing up. And for me, I keep showing up. You know what I'm saying? And here is a problem that I'm seeing though. I want the next generation to come on. Like, I don't want to keep serving in some of these capacities again, right? I need that next generation and willing to mentor. And I don't know what's going on with the next generation. Let me just put it that way. I need them to step up. I need them to step up.
In doing the networking through Clubhouse, and this was just like a minor like blip. So the president of our women's council, she is in that room. And so I had met her through this room, and then we connected on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And so the newsletter that came out this last month, they had started featuring each month. They featured some member in our association, and they featured me. And, and I thought like, hey, if I had not made these connections and put myself out there, they don't know who I am. They would never have had a reason to feature me in their newsletter. So it definitely, definitely pays to put yourself into the rooms and try to get to the table. Let's see. Okay.
And let me come back to Women's Council. So if I was to look at our first Cuban female president, if you looked at Amabel Guzman, who has served nationally in numerous capacities, if we were to look at Nakia Pipion McGriff, if I was to look at Sarah Ware, actually, with the exception of me, I would say every other woman, no exception of me and Vicky Silvano. She came up through ARIA. 5 of our female leaders and 2 are past WCR presidents all came through Women's Council. I mean, when you talking about going to the top of the top. So I think there's an estimate that something like 70% of all female leaders within the Realtor organization came out of Women's Council.
That's good information. Yeah, our local association, Raleigh Regional, this year we have our first African-American president, female. So yeah, that was really big for us. The next question, there's a lot of bright and shiny things. There's a lot of bright and shiny things and programs that are offered to realtors all the time in different, different ways, social media or education or whatever. And there's a lot, all of these are basically pay to play programs, trainings, courses, whatever. So what do you suggest to stay away from? And what would you suggest is worthwhile to actually invest in, like farming, ad spend, or focus on free?
So, of course, I love to leverage free, but I believe in education. I'm going into the ad spend because I have maximized my sphere. So in order to scale, I have to start doing ads. If we were to go back to the beginning, I'll tell you what I did. In the beginning, my automobile was wrapped. And yes, I did sell houses off of the wrapped automobile. I had bus benches. I had billboards. I was doing a monthly direct mail piece and had a classified ad that ran in the back of the Sun-Times every single day. Now that got me 6 calls every single day. I averaged 6 calls a day. What I would not, and I had house values. right? Which was an online portal, and I owned the zip code. Okay. So I was doing that, a mixture of things, right? So there are a lot of gurus out here. And who would I? So I did house values, whose classes I've taken the designations and certifications. I've not necessarily invested a lot of money in gurus, right? I research people extensively, oftentimes going to people who are referred to me. So I never did the Mike Ferry, even though he's great, or the Tom Ferry. I have worked close with David Knox. I consider him a personal friend of mine. But all of the programs that I've taken where it was, I guess, a self-professed guru was never in real estate, like Danielle Leslie, like David Newman, Owen videos. And let me say this, but everyone I had some different insight into. Like I went to go hire a coach. I realized that he had coached Danielle Leslie. I understood her outcomes. So I went to Danielle Leslie. David Newman, I met at the National Speakers Association conference because, listen to this is the craziest thing. Because I volunteered, we had a volunteer reception. The president at that time introduced me to David Newman. David Newman poured into me, did not even know me because I was volunteering. So when I signed up for one of his emails, I ended up spending money with him because of that interaction that I had with him, and he was willing to pour into me. Owen Video actually inboxed me, but I had interviewed Cara, the YouTube realtor, and realized that she had used his program, and I knew what her outcomes were. So then I went to that program. So I would say that most of the every program that I've done, I've known someone who knows that person, and I trusted not necessarily the person, but I trusted the other person and was willing to invest. If not, they're taking money out here. So, so let me say this. I did an event. I'm not going to mention the event, but there were a lot of people who are not from the world of real estate. And everybody knows that we love shiny objects. So sometimes I think that as an industry, we are preyed upon because people always have something to sell us. And it's pretty bad because I have people on my team. They email me all the time. You've heard this person. I don't know none of these people. Like, how did they find you? That's what I want to know. I don't know. No, none of these people. And here's the thing. I have never done business with anyone who just sent me a random message that I didn't sign up for their stuff.
No, there's definitely value in having someone to be referred to you once you see their success after learning. So
yeah.
And that was there was a second part to that, but you kind of already, because it was that you've shared with us that you had not participated in the Facebook ad arena until recently. So basically you've already answered, most of your success was really organic and sphere based with those, and then those other paid items like the car wrap and the billboards and the benches. And okay.
So, but come back. So even when it comes to the Facebook ads guy, he was referred to me through J-Man. And so J-Man referred him. I used them, and now my son is using them. So yeah, they've all been, I've seen the work. And then I decided, I know I need that work. Let me go do business with them. And they've all been good experiences. Had one recent experience. I did know the person because I hired two people for the same thing. I could see clearly the difference. And I like the second person more than the first person.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So this year I've gone all in on social media, and I'm doing all the things, posting and stories on Facebook business, trying to post on Facebook personal. I struggle with I'm not a personal sharer, so I struggle with that a little bit. But doing the IG stories, doing the reels, doing the IGTV posts, post weekly series that's cross post to my website, put onto YouTube, and occasionally do, a IG live. I have seen growth in followers, a slight organic growth since February. And I've tried to spend like 15 to 30 minutes a day, if not more, commenting, liking, looking to see what everybody has going on. But what more can I do since I'm doing all the things? So what more can I do to promote engagement and see lead results?
So I wouldn't do more things. What I would do is with the things that you're doing, make sure that you're adding a call to action to everything, and you must direct them to a landing page or a lead capture form. So I don't think you should do more. I think you should just tweak what you're doing. And if we don't have landing pages like the Google Forms, the Cloud CMA, all of that, you're not going to generate leads, right? So a lot of people, they aren't doing the activity, right? You're doing the activity. So now let us be a little bit more intentional about adding a call to action, making sure that we have a landing page for everything to bring those leads in. And now that the world is opening up, getting back out face to face, meeting people. Oh, I would also say, when you think about your content, are you repurposing the content that you're already creating?
Yeah, I need to do a better job of that.
Yeah. So instead of creating more, figure out how to repurpose what you already have.
Okay. And the second part of that question was, because we know that you have grown your business tremendously through video, and you've told us how well, that it translates into your community, especially with people recognizing your voice.
They know that Marky voice.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot of recognition. So how long, when you started really focusing on videos, doing your minute videos a day and repurposing all those little snippets, so how long did it take you to really see results from those videos? Because I feel like, maybe I'm just being impatient.
So let me say this. So I've been doing videos every day since 2016. I will say that I've had financial growth year over year. But if I was just going to look at it was a combination of things, I would say, well, yeah, year over year growth. But I'm trying to think, when did I have that? I've had actually a great spike coming home because I could sit down and focus, and I wasn't always at the airport. And then I also had a really big spike in November of 2019. And it was the best realtor conference and expo. I probably met so many people who had been seeing me online face to face. I added that call to business. And so I know that my numbers are going to increase when I get back out in person, because I'm the same person online as I am offline, right? But I've seen growth. Actually, I have seen consistent growth, because in 2012, I was questioning social media and technology, where I should focus my efforts in real estate. And at that point, I decided that I would just focus on social media and technology. And I've seen consistent growth every single year. So when you say, so let me ask you this. You think growth, well, we need to get your lead generation numbers up. So to get those lead generation numbers up, we would go back to that initial spread. We would go back to the business planning, knowing that we need to take those activities to add 6 to 8 contacts per day, leveraging 1 to 1.5 hours, being intentional just on the lead generation aspect. So when you're putting these videos out, when people are engaging, you might have in your notes, your note-taking app, a simple introduction. And if they know anyone looking to buy or sell in your neighborhood, and go into Messenger.
So just go directly to the DM and
right. If they made a comment, you've commented back. You could just say, hey, hey, appreciate your engagement. Wanted to introduce myself. You're not selling them. You just want to introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And just copy and paste it. And if you know you already look, when you look in the messenger, you send it to them, then you come up with a second message at that time to send a second message. Hey, how you doing today? Whatever the case may be. I would say also provide an item of value.
Okay.
Provide an item of value.
So speaking of items of value, so the next question. So you've mentioned in the past that you need to be a detective on social media, looking for events, looking for milestones with friends and clients' lives and commenting or sending a note or something. So when it comes to client follow-up, which I know that you said that you don't actively sell, you do referrals now. So, but when it comes to client follow-up and post-closing touches, what have you done in the past? Do you recommend closing, 1 year closing anniversary gifts, just for that 1 year mark, every year an anniversary card or gift, quarterly touches, holidays, a VIP list, or all clients? What does that look like?
So I believe 7 levels of communication. So you definitely need to have a VIP list. Okay. But let me come back. So even though I don't sell, I still have a sales cycle. So at the moment anyone reaches out to do an inquiry, I already have an initial email that I send to everyone. And I don't, it's not going through my email marketing system. It's coming directly from me. At the moment that they decide that they want to do business, I have another general email that I send them out. Okay. At this time, they're going to send me a check. We're in business. We're planning this event. Within 48 hours of their event, I also send them a follow-up. It's an aftercare letter is what I call it. Okay. Everybody is in my email marketing. So they get an email from me every 14 days. Right now, I have 250 mail pieces that I am going to mail out to those people who I do business with. And not only do I have that initial email that I send, I keep a box of cards because I send everybody a photo thank you card as well with their inquiry. So I do have a system, and it puts me in front of them every 2 weeks with some type of annual mail piece. Contingent upon who you listen to, you're going to have multiple touches in that program. Everybody should be in your email marketing. Everybody. I would think about incorporating mail pieces. And let me say this, I don't do a lot of mailing. Okay. But I mail Valentine's Day cards, mail Father's Day cards, because I want to be in the mailbox when other people aren't there. I don't want to share that mail space. So you're not going to get a Christmas card from me because that's when everybody sends their Christmas cards. Also, I think I've pulled out my birthday card from Barbara Betts, right? Because Barbara Betts buys her birthday cards in bulk. It was my first birthday card that I got for my 50th birthday. But what she says is enjoy your birthday month. My assumption is she sent everybody in July that card a couple of days before the month of July. And the way to pull those addresses, which we actually figured out how we could export that, is through Google Calendar. So you can, but you still need to find their mailing address, right? So your VIP clients definitely should be on the birthday list. And I get far fewer birthday cards than I get Christmas cards.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would think of a nice mail piece at least 2 times a year with that email marketing piece. I know our agents, they send out email piece once per month because we provide it for them through Promo Shop. So I would hope that they're all taking advantage of it and sending that email out once per month. I don't send out the email that my agents send out because I'm doing something in a totally different system, which is an email every other week.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. So I enjoy new construction. I would really like to niche down to new construction, but it's hard in our area to be a listing agent of new construction. There's a huge barrier to entry there. If you've not already established yourself with builders and have resources and knowledge to find land that's suitable for development. We have a lot of farmland here, and there's a lot of different policies and things in place that have kind of curtailed a lot of building in the areas because the growth has to slow down because the municipalities can't keep up. But so I do like working with buyers with new construction. So what would be the best plan to niche down into buyers with new construction, but not push your resale buyers and sellers to the side? Because I still want to list. So how do you create a niche, but not push all the other people that you're willing to work with away? Does that make sense?
So it sounds like you would be growing at that point, and you would be at the point of having enough sales to create a team and bringing in a buyer's agent. And the reason is because your time is going to be split. And I will tell you, the agents who I see get worn out the fastest are those who are dealing with buyers. Because it's a lot of work, right? So not that you can't do it. I will just tell you that those who focus only on one tend to make more money. And if we look at the past year, top producers actually garnish more market share. And that's because they were already in a niche. Yeah. So they've taken even more market share. Just for the top 10, I think it was the top 10%, they looked at the percentage of market share that they have. And did they grow? I think they grew like from 12 to 14%.
Gotcha. All right, I got 2 more questions for you. In my local market, the month supply of inventory is at 0.3.
Okay.
0.3 months of inventory. The median sales price here is $295,000. Yeah,
is that 10 days?
0.3.
Okay, so it's 10 days of inventory.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just 10 days of inventory, almost $300,000 average price point. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And sellers are receiving 103.7% of their original list price. Everything's going over.
Okay, so they're about a little bit over 300 if they're getting 103% of the average price. Okay.
We're seeing buyers right now exit the market. So, already is Hunger Games for listings. And now it's Hunger Games for buyers, because now we're having a lot of buyers that are just tired of it. They're either on a time crunch and they can't find a house, or they're frustrated because they're not winning offers, or they don't have funds to compete. We have a lot of people transplanting here because we have a lot RTP, and a lot of the big pharmaceutical companies, technology companies are here. We have a lot of people moving in from other areas that are bringing cash, which local buyers, traditional buyers here do not have. So we're seeing a lot of the buyers move to the sidelines. So what advice do you have for creative ways to find these willing and able buyers? Do you start reaching out to these agents in other states that we have this influx of people coming from, to try to build that referral side for the buyers that are coming in with the funds to compete? Or maybe change the wording and the presentation of the educational pieces or the videos that are going out, and not focusing on the scarcity, but maybe focus on the availability, the more affordable availability based on right now, while interest rates are still low.
So let me ask you this. If you attract the buyers, do you have inventory to put them in?
We ain't got nothing.
Okay.
Literally. Even new construction here has stopped right now.
Yeah. So here's the concern then, right? So I would not focus on attracting buyers when we don't have anything to put them in, right? And this is a conversation I just had with Skylar. We should be listing focused right now. And let me come back and say this. I don't care if it's a listing or not. What I want to do is secure compensation for pairing people, okay? So one of the things that Carrie and I came up with in Operation I've got houses for sale, right? Is to make sure that the buyers you have are under an exclusive buyer representation agreement. And then going back and looking at properties 2010 to 2012 that were on the market but have not sold. The reason is because they have a lot of equity in those properties. Okay, they've seen continuous growth and they might be ready to move now. Now, you could use predictive analytics tools. You can go into the local MLS. What I'm looking at is anybody who's ever thought about selling, okay, their house in the past decade. And I want to let them know the amount of equity that they have in their homes. But more importantly, this is a new strategy I came up with last week. We know that right now, today, a person can get the most amount of money in the least amount of time, period. Also, people who hoard, people who have deferred maintenance, people who know their house is not the most pleasing house and no curb appeal, we need to talk to them because now is the time to unload that burden and they will get more money than they ever thought. I want your raggedy, and you can't say it like that. If your house lacks curb appeal, if it's functional opulence, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, but you know you can find another place to put 2 bed. These are the kind of terms, you people in you see the 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and you got a 3 bedroom, 1 bath. I want every last one of them. Because now I got my purchase rehab folks, I got my rehabbers would love that freaking house, right? So should we change the language? Yes, because we know that the raggediest of houses can still maximize their potential in today's market. And that's not going to always be the case. So I want to find those houses that don't fit the community at this time, that are an eyesore, and explain to them how much they can really get for their eyesore in this market, because this is an unusual market where you can pretty much sell junk and get premium price.
So we need to do like the guy from Driving for Dollars, ride around and look for the ugly duckling houses.
You want to look for the ugly houses. You want any houses that might have violations on them, and you know they can't cure those violations. So now we're going into county records. Okay, we have a Freedoms of Information Act that we can go pull that information in my county, right? So I'm looking at the Freedoms of Information Act. I'm driving around. I'm looking for properties violations have been filed. That is where we're letting them know, hey, do you know you can walk away from this right now? And this is how much you can earn if you walk away, right? Nope, don't worry about cleaning up. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of that. There are people who would have never come in and did a clean out, right? Who will do a clean out today because there's no inventory, well, there's a lack of listed properties. Yeah.
And I have one of the things you mentioned. So I have gone through and I've just started my most likely to list campaign in specific price ranges for people who would likely be moving up in price point, because there are a little bit more, that inventory is a little bit more heavy if you're moving up to specific price points.
I did want to come back though. What I would like to know is if people leave your area, where do they go? And you can look at migration tools to find out, because it is very possible. And I want you to think about this as a reverse prospecting. If they're leaving to go to the other place in Florida, okay, I don't know where they go, but let's just say that. It is very possible that they have reached out to realtors down in that area. And I'm going to assume that people from your state live on the east side of Florida versus people from my state tend to move to the west side of Florida based on the highways that go into the state, right? If they're going to Tampa, I would want to know what realtor down there are servicing the buyers from this area, because it's possible that they're looking before they sell. So reverse engineering.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of people leave North Carolina and go to Florida. So that would definitely be a reverse referral opportunity.
Yeah.
That's what you would call it.
Who are they doing? Yeah. You can see the migration map. You could find which one of them cities they like the most. And then potentially looking at who's dealing with the most buyers, service in that area. And that would take some research. But then, hey, well, who are you working with here? What's the problem? Can you build a relationship to sell that property? The likelihood is some of them aren't buying only because some of them can't buy in that area the same way they can't sell up. They could sell up here, but well, let me say this. They're not willing to sell because they can't buy. Whew, that took a lot.
Exactly. Because, depending on where they want to move to, the cost of living and the pricing of houses may not correlate, whereas we have people coming from California that sell their house for millions of dollars and come here, and our, $500,000 house is beyond what they even had in California. So yeah there's that piece. So the last question is just kind of a fun question. So what piece of technology that you use for real estate, whether it be an app, a website, an educational tool, that's been the most beneficial to your business? And the second part of that is, what gadget can you not live without?
I would have said gadget. Because I got a whole arsenal. Okay, so I'm going to go with today only because of all of the live streaming video. It would be this tabletop selfie stick, right? But I would not have you believe that it was only this. I am a diehard battery enthusiast. And the reason I keep backup batteries and my own 4G modem, because I never want to be in the position to not work. So if we were to look over here, right? These are my batteries, because I'm real serious about my battery life. And this is my 4G. So I could leave home for 7 days, not forget to charge these, and they would keep my devices going for 7 days. This one is a 4-day right here. And so when I think about doing my business, I come from the no excuse zone, right? So with that being said, I could live without this. I can't do nothing if my phone or my device is dead and if I don't have internet connectivity. So we'll go with those in order to do our business. When it comes to an app, I like so many. I'm going to go with Restream today, Restream.io, because I love creating live video content. The ability to share that content with, I think, 7 locations at one time gets to expand my digital footprint. And then I'm giving each of the platforms what they desire, and that is live streaming video.
Nice.
That was good, guys. That was excellent.
That's all I got.
That's all. Well, you did good. Look, and you hit it right on the head. We 1 hour in, we 1 hour out. You did a freaking awesome job. I want everyone to come. You all go. Look, we got to follow each other. Now, I know that we got Ebony to over 2,000. Let's go on and do that again. Well, I want you tell them, drop your URL for Instagram so they can come and follow you over on Instagram. I've been repurposing. Sharon says, excellent job. Those were some good questions. And here's the thing. I believe that Karen asks questions that are definitely, we've been doing a lot of mindset to me with the questions, but that first question out the gate on the defaults, I think will help a lot of people. What I want you to think about, people got equity. So a short sale, that they're not doing short sales. It'll still be a default. So the first part of the process, right, will be the same, but we will not need to get bank approval, guys. We will not need to get bank approval. So hold on 1 second. Let's go throw us some music on. Woohoo! Good night tonight.